Hello everyone, I'm Yu Lu from the Beijing Institute of Technology. Today, I'm excited to present our work on utilizing gaze-contingent rendering to maintain visual attention in educational VR. Education is one of the key application areas of virtual reality. In recent years, VR has garnered significant interest for its potential to revolutionize education. Due to recent advancements in educational technology, the adoption rate of VR-based learning has been on the rise in prominent schools, colleges, and universities. VR learning environments, with their immersive and interactive properties, offer unique opportunities for experiential and situated learning, which can promote student interest, satisfaction, and perceived learning outcomes compared to traditional teaching methods. However, in VR, distractions like irrelevant objects or avatars can easily pull students' attention away. The challenge is that we can't just remove these distractions because they're essential for creating a realistic and engaging experience. So, the real question is, how can we maintain students' visual attention on the learning content while still keeping the immersive environment intact? How we solve this? Existing solutions typically involve pausing lectures, using noticeable visual prompts, or guiding attention through peripheral cues. However, these approaches can be intrusive or difficult to apply across different VR environments. Furthermore, they often focus on a single region of interest, whereas educational tasks often involve multiple areas of focus, making these methods impractical for complex learning activities. So, there is still a need for further exploration of initiatives aimed at maintaining students' visual attention. To tackle these challenges, we propose using gaze-contingent rendering, or GCR, a technique where irrelevant objects become less visible when the user's gaze drifts away from the learning content. This approach has three main advantages. First, it minimizes disruptions. Effects only kick in when students lose focus, so they don't get in the way of the learning experience. Second, it's highly adaptable. This method works in any scene or context without depending on specific elements. And third, it allows us to highlight multiple regions of interest at the same time, which is really useful for collaborative tasks and dynamic learning environments. Next, let's take a closer look at the specific GCR strategies we developed. Our design guideline focuses on reducing the visibility of non-critical objects. To implement GCR, we developed three rendering strategies: Gaussian blur, pixelation, and underexposure. When users' attention drifts, these techniques make learning unrelated objects less visible. For example, with Gaussian blur, the further a student's gaze moves from the relevant content, the stronger the blur effect becomes. This helps refocus their attention on what's important and makes it easier to stay engaged. We'll explain this mathematically next. To clarify some of the technical details, there are a few key terms and variables we need to define. First, we have effective objects, which are the learning-related items in the scene, and then there's the gaze vector. We use the angle theta, which represents the minimum angle between the user's gaze direction and the vectors from a user's cyclopean eye to the centers of the learning-related objects. This helps us measure how much the user's gaze deviates from those objects. We also created three shaders, and their parameters, like sigma or cell size, are linked to theta in a linear way. These parameters were carefully tested and calibrated to make sure they don't cause any discomfort for the user. Here are some examples of how the three GCR strategies look in action. The rightmost column shows normal rendering. When attention shifts, blur, pixelation, or darkening subtly degrade peripheral content. Notice how critical objects remain sharp, guiding focus naturally. Our study focused on four key research questions. First, we wanted to know if GCR strategies could effectively maintain visual attention across different VR educational scenarios. Second, we aimed to assess whether these strategies would enhance academic performance. Third, we explored whether GCR strategies influence students' immersion and engagement. Finally, we gathered students' feedback on how they perceive the use of GCR in maintaining visual attention. We conducted a user study to evaluate the proposed GCR strategies. We created three different educational VR scenarios: a music room, a biology lab, and a classroom. Each one was designed to replicate a typical learning environment, with specific tasks tied to each setting. The tasks lasted between 16 and 20 minutes, with a mix of lectures and hands-on activities. This variety helped us evaluate how well the GCR strategies work across different types of learning experiences. We used an HTC Vive Pro Eye and Unity for our setup, and we recruited 353 university students to evaluate the GCR strategies. We went with a full factorial between subjects design, with 4 conditions for scenarios 1 and 2 and 8 conditions for scenario 3. Participants were randomly assigned to different scenarios and rendering conditions. We measured a few key things. First, visual attention. We measured the total fixation count and duration on the learning-related objects. Then, we measured academic achievement through pre- and post-test scores. For immersion and engagement, we used Likert scale surveys to get feedback. Finally, we gathered insights on attitudes through semi-structured interviews. The procedure included calibration, VR immersion, and post-session assessments. Let's now discuss our findings, starting with visual attention. To make the data analysis and comparison more intuitive, we normalized the TFD by dividing it by the total learning time. As you can see in the table, there was a strong positive correlation between TFC and NTFD. To keep things simple, we'll only report the results for NTFD here. Since NTFD effectively reflects how students allocate their visual attention to the learning content, we'll refer to it as visual attention from now on. As shown in the figure, we saw significant improvements in visual attention with the GCR strategies compared to normal rendering. Across all scenarios, students in the experimental groups paid more attention to the learning content. Interestingly, the seating location didn't significantly affect the results, which suggests that our GCR strategies are effective no matter where students are seated in the VR environment. So, for research question 1, we conclude that GCR strategies are indeed effective in maintaining students' visual attention. We used ANCOVA to analyze academic achievement, and the results showed that students who used the GCR strategies performed significantly better on academic tests compared to those in the control group. The strong correlation between visual attention and academic achievement suggests that maintaining visual attention has a direct, positive impact on learning outcomes. So, for research question 2, we conclude that GCR strategies effectively boost students' academic performance. Besides, the surveys didn't show any significant differences in immersion or engagement across the different conditions. Students spent most of their time focused on the clearly rendered learning-related objects, which helped maintain immersion. The moderate level of engagement reported might be due to the nature of the task itself. Since there was limited interaction with virtual objects, this could have affected the results. So, for research question 3, we couldn't confirm any impact of GCR strategies on immersion or engagement. For research question 4, the interviews showed overwhelmingly positive feedback. Students felt that GCR was helpful, non-intrusive, and made learning flow more smoothly. They thought using GCR to maintain visual attention was not only acceptable, but could actually boost academic performance. Plus, many students expressed interest in having more interactive activities included in future VR lessons. To wrap up, here's a quick summary of our work. We introduced GCR strategies to help maintain visual attention in educational VR. Our study showed that these strategies are effective in keeping attention focused and improving academic performance. We also highlighted the potential of GCR as a valuable tool for sustaining visual attention in various VR applications. Looking ahead, future work can explore AI-driven parameter tuning, investigate the long-term effects on retention, and look at combining GCR with other attention-guiding techniques to make it even more effective. Thank you all for your attention. I'm happy to take any questions or hear your feedback. For more details, you can scan the DOI or feel free to contact us via email.